Hello, I'm Marc Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have Lewis Pope, one of the head nerds at Enable, in the studio in London. How are we doing, Lewis?
Doing great. It's been a fun trip so far getting here.
Yeah, because you've actually flown in from North Carolina Sunday, and I'm going to say specifically to come on the Channel Chat show because we're going global now, which has been great. But how was the trip over?
It was fine. It was a good, quick 6.5 hour trip. A lot better than the 13-hour trips going to the other side of the planet. Got in, had a little walk around London for about 3 or 4 hours, got to see the normal touristy things. So far, I've really been enjoying the trip this time. It's been a lot of fun.
Great.
So far.
Now, Lewis, normally when I get someone in the studio, I normally have a scour of their LinkedIn profile. And don't take this the wrong way, but you really are a nerd, aren't you? Because I looked at your degree, and I was thinking electrical and engineering and electronics. So tell me about that. Why were you interested in that career from early on?
Whenever I was little, they had to take away the screwdrivers from me. Because if it was a piece of electronics and it had screws in it, I was going to take it apart and try to figure out what was inside of it. You know, I was 6 or 7, had no clue really what was on the inside, how it really worked, but I wanted to start learning. Over the years, that just kept going. So whenever I had the choice to start college, I went for electronics engineering as a focus. That's where I kind of cut my teeth on computers. Really the deep technical part of it, because I was doing a lot of microcontroller programming. And that gave me a lot of skills, that gave me a lot of capabilities to take where I had traditionally been, my hands had been in a computer since 1994. But I didn't start doing it to put a dollar in my pocket until I was, in my mid-late 20s. And then, all those things start converging. I got an opportunity to move back home, and I found a small computer consultancy business that needed a bench technician. And from there, that's where it started into the whole MSP space from that point.
Now, I know your job title says you're a nerd, but would you describe yourself as a bit of a nerd?
Oh, very much so. I do so many things that are way into the realm of nerd. I do... if name a sci-fi series, I've probably watched it more than 5 times, but I do anime, sci-fi, comic book conventions back in the States. I do game show panels at them as well. I even do cosplay. So it's very much, it runs deep with me. It runs real deep.
Why did you decide then to sort of focus on security and becoming a security expert?
I want to say that it was just a happy accident, but at the same time, I was very particular about the things that I would do, especially whenever it came to programming. Because whenever you deal with microcontrollers and programming those types of systems, especially whenever they're in industrial control systems, the first concern you have is, will this kill a human? It's kind of like that's your guidepost for anything and everything you're doing. It's like, what is the human safety element? So I was always kind of geared towards that. You do it right, you do it safely, so that you don't have repercussions later on that you don't want. And as I started, going through bench technician up to service delivery manager and just continued up that progression within the MSP space, my natural tendency to want to do things the right way, the safe way, naturally congealed with the needs of security inside of IT. So for me, it was a happy fit, happy accident, but also it was very much a direct confluence of my actual skill set.
And for the listeners out there that don't know Enable, give us a bit of an overview of the company. What are Enable doing? What do they stand for?
Okay, so Enable is probably one of the longest running companies now in the MSP space, about 21 years at this point now, I believe, whenever Enable first started up. It was one of the first, MSP vendors, really. They were producing probably, the first RMM platform as well from N-Central back in the day. But over the years, mergers, acquisitions, we got the opportunity to become an independent publicly traded company again. So we're now back to, over the years, focusing not just on that original target audience of who needs an RMM, which was typically MSPs. We've now also expanded that out to, to the mid-market, to the reseller, to anybody that really needs what we're offering, because what we're offering is the ability to do things faster and easier that typically takes highly skilled individuals to do it by hand or manually. Just simply, think about the amount of time that if your job role means you're responsible for handling the patching in your environment, if you don't have a tool to assist you with that, doesn't matter where you are, what kind of business you work for, that's time lost, that's productivity lost, it's additional payroll. It's so many things add up to this is a challenge we need to address for businesses, for MSPs. We're coming in and giving them the tools and the capabilities and also guidance on here's how you can achieve what you need to achieve in a way that is more efficient, more scalable, and honestly, just more of a pleasure to do it this way than it is to sometimes figure out how to do it, the traditional manual or by hand way.
Yeah, because I spent some time at Enable, the Empower event in Berlin, literally earlier this year. I met some of the other nerds as well. But give us an overview of what the nerds are and what's your job within the organization.
So the nerds, the head nerds, we came into our roles, we were elevated into those roles. And pretty much every one of us has some level of experience with the MSP space or as internal IT or as something else that is very, very directly relevant to the challenges we are helping our customers with. Stephanie Hammond, she's our sales and marketing head nerd. She's been in this game for 20-some years now. She was one of the early hires, I believe, at Enable back in the day. Joseph Furla, Eric Harless, Ben Lee, one of our new additions. Paul Kelly, Jason Murphy, Mark Andre, the head nerd, our manager. All of us, for some reason, are in our roles because we've got something special. We've got something to offer. Me, I have, 7 years of direct MSP experience to go on top of my background of technical and engineering experience. That lets me be really, really, I want to say, makes me sympathetic to the challenges that internal IT have to face, regardless of, if you're internal IT, if you're an MSP technician, you're a network engineer, you're an incident responder. Chances are I've probably been in that role or adjacent to the role, and I understand the actual challenges, not just technical, but business. Eric Harless has been in the backup space for many, many, many years at this point. Was in a previous life was the product manager for our Cove backups, data protection. Paul Kelly, Mr. Jason Murphy, they've both been administrators. So there's a lot of knowledge there. And because there's a lot of knowledge there, we're valuable. But we're valuable in a way that's not so much tied to a monetary dollars amount of this is what we are worth. We're worth the goodwill. We are worth the enablement that we deliver for our customers. I always like to say that if you want to describe us as simply as you can, we are educators and advocates. We're educators for those that need to leverage our platforms and tools, but not just limited to there. You also have the advantage of the education that comes from our experience and wisdom of being, in the game so long.
Am I right in thinking you don't even have to be an Enable customer to call you up and get some advice?
No.
That's just nuts, though, isn't it? Why would you offer that to companies that?
Why exactly? And it's the part of it is we very much have a sense that it is an ecosystem. It is a community, and as the community evolves and learns and grows and becomes better, it's better for everybody. And since we're more of a knowledge resource, it's like knowledge is free. Time is a thing, but the knowledge is free. And any time that we can go and meet with somebody and talk with them and solve a problem, that has a cascading effect. It's either going to be just we've made their day better, and that's great, and it makes us happy, and we may see them again some other day, but otherwise it's that act of paying it forward a little bit too.
Do you know what's going to happen, Lewis? With all the listeners happening, they're going to be calling you for free tech support all the time. You're going to be inundated with calls. You're not going to be able to do your job, that's for sure.
But out on Reddit, out on the Facebook groups, out on the multiple different locations we have comms. Yeah, there's a lot of conversations that are happening. I probably spend a quarter of my day is having those types of conversations, educating. Then another quarter of my day might be just simply sitting there and writing PowerShell scripts to add to our automation cookbook to make available to our customers so they can use them through our Insider and Central platform. And then another quarter of my day will be there, building up the educational content. So it is, a lot of what I do is knowledge for free to all that want it.
That is a big investment for a company to do, isn't it? A huge investment, which it's impressive. Why do Enable do it? Why do you do it?
I mean, one is, it is a differentiator. It makes us stand out. It absolutely does. But also, I think it just came as a natural evolution of the philosophies and the motivations of the company. Whenever I got into the role, it was the prerogative and the direction was to help. That's what it was. It was, you are there to help. You are there to educate. You are there to, make your the other Enableites, help them, assist them, make them better at their jobs, educate them, but also for our customers to be there to educate them, to do what others weren't doing, because there's only so much going out as a MSP channel vendor. There's only so much going out and selling a platform is going to do for you. Because you're limited then at that point. If somebody's not using your platforms, they have no interest in you. But if there's some knowledge you can gain from them, if there are conversations, if there's education that they can still consume, well, they're still going to know about you. They're still probably going to keep up with you. They're going to pay attention, hopefully, to what you say and the announcements that you make. So that's the sly business line of it all. But also, it's just, heck, if you get into the head nerd's role, you're helpful. Yeah. You want to help. You're driven. You're motivated. You can't not help sometimes. And they just took advantage of that motivation and that eagerness that we have.
So Enable now are looking to maybe position themselves more as a cyber resilience platform. How and why are you making that transition?
So it's a natural evolution of, and due to the demands of the threat landscape, you can't just focus on availability. If somebody's looking for computer help today, they're not looking for computer help. They are going and they are looking for compliance. They are looking for regulatory assistance. They are looking for cybersecurity. They want to be protected. The conversations aren't, hey, I need you to make sure my printers will print anymore. So the market has changed, but at the same time, Enable wants to be able to address that change. But it wasn't just the market. It was also the broader market. It was also just the simple feedback that we were getting from our customers, from our partners that have been using our platforms, the requests that we get, the assistance that we provide, those PowerShell scripts that I was mentioning earlier, those sometimes can be the seeds because customer makes a request, I help them out with that, we get that delivered solution in place, it works for them, we've proven it, and that might make its way back up into product. So those small little trickles of feedback into the system has put us in a place where naturally we were going to do more of those types of things anyway. But the broader demands of the market, of the channel, of the threat landscape, it was kind of a silly thing not to make that transition from management to resiliency, cyber resiliency, because, well, it is not a game of simply preventing bad things from happening anymore. That's a kind of a false goal to try to keep anymore. It's about we need to be able to be resilient against attacks, but almost as important, we need to be resilient as a business entity and be able to come back from whatever might happen.
So you've always been known as a MSP first company, but it sounds like you're trying to become a strategic partner to resellers and potentially end users. How are you going to be doing that now? How is that going to be evolving into sort of partners and resellers?
We've had the reseller program for a while. It was, but most often it was an MSP that found an opportunity. Somebody said, I love what you do. I love your tools that you're using, but I don't want you. I just want the tool. So there was always a resale motion that was available to MSPs.
Right.
But we did more formalize that, break it out, and have it as a stronger motion. and pairing that also with the going towards mid-market as well. And that was just a consequence of, hey, we've got the solution for your problems. Because this, regardless of whether you're an MSP, internal IT, mid-market, systems administrator, network engineer, whatever your role is, we probably have a tool that's going to make your life easier than it would be otherwise, especially if you're kind of stuck in the motion of, you're stuck in the situation where you don't have the resources. Because that's really what we do well, is give you a tool to do something without the resources it used to take to do that thing.
Let's take end users then, without sort of naming names. What would be like a typical example of a breach like an MSP would have in these sort of days? What would be an example?
So there's two most common ones, I think. One is, yes, there's a vulnerability in the platform and the vulnerability gets taken advantage of. That's happened a few times over the past few years. But then there's just the more frequent is somebody losing control of credentials, somebody being phished, somebody suffering from a man-in-the-middle attack where a threat actor now has compromised a single user at an MSP that now allows them to access to MSP's dashboards. At which point, they have the keys to the kingdom and they can do whatever they want. That is a part of the cyber resiliency story too, that you as an MSP need to be able to defend against and monitor for those types of activities. So you should really have your login set up with an SSO or federated back into Azure, Entra ID, into something so that you can monitor those logins and know whenever that login happens from somewhere it's not supposed to happen from. What an MSP needs to do nowadays is a lot different than what an MSP needed to do 5, 6, 7 years ago around that space. And it's for the simple, it's the same challenge that almost everybody else has of, I'm worried about user compromise and what that user compromise is going to allow a threat actor to have access to.
Now, you've got a big virtual event coming up later this month. The Cyber Resilience Summit. What was the idea behind that?
So the Cyber Resilience Summit was something I got to be rather involved with it really early on and see it morph and change and what we wanted to do with it. And as the more brainstorming happened and the more people came together for it, the more and more it went from we're talking about what a product can do to we're talking about the need for resiliency in these different verticals, in these different sets of capabilities and responsibilities that you're going to have as a systems administrator, as an endpoint administrator, as a network engineer. So it ended up aligning kind of with our unified endpoint management, security, and data protection. And once we kind of coalesced around that and it became a cyber resiliency story, it became more of a practical guide of here are some of the things you should be doing and should be considering. I did the little sneak preview. I did the UEM portion, Unified Endpoint Management, with Jason Murphy. And one of the things we discussed was whenever you're dealing with endpoint management, it is so much more than just installing an antivirus and patching a system. There is a real need now to make sure that you are hardening endpoints, that you're shrinking that attack surface as small as you can, that you're monitoring for, what are the defaults. I think there's like 6 default methods you can use that are on Windows that you can use to remotely manipulate a machine. And there's like 12 or 14 artifacts you can check to figure out, is that enabled or present on that Windows device? So that's one of the things we kind of showed off was, hey, you can do that through UEM, through our N-Central platform. And hey, I've already built a service monitor for you to do that. Because it's a small thing. It's a small question of how can our computers that we are managing be remoted into. But if you don't have the skills, the experience, or the knowledge, that's not a small question. That can be weeks of research and trying to figure out what those artifacts are. And then once you know what they are, and then it's another, if you're not really a skilled individual with writing PowerShell scripts or however else you're going to query this information about your endpoints, that could be another week or two. So, and that's, again, back to why are the nerds there and why are we useful, is because we help get to those end solutions a lot quicker.
Now, we've been reading about high-profile security incidents recently in the news. Lots of them, likes of Marks and Spencer's, Jaguar Land Rover, etc. Now, with hindsight and your experience, what could have stopped those incidents happening?
So those co-op, some others, a lot of those were social engineering.
What's that term? What do you mean by social engineering?
So just good old-fashioned calling the help desk, being aggressive, being persistent. I need you to reset my credentials. So that's a technique used by a lot of threat groups. Scattered Spider was one of them that I believe they were the ones involved with Co-op and M&S. And lo and behold, just a few weeks ago, there was another, 4 individuals so far associated with Scattered Spider related to the M&S or the Co-op that were they were 17, 19-year-olds that were being arrested for their involvement in those attacks that resulted in millions of dollars of damages.
So social engineering, I'm calling up, I'm being aggressive, and I'm saying to you, you've got to do the X, Y, Z because it's urgent.
Yes.
And that's happening. They're getting through.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine because think about it. Who's the help desk individual?
Yeah.
Help desk.
So I'm putting them under pressure to do something now.
Right. And, who am I pretending to be on the other side of the phone? Am I just being convincing in the conversation? Am I being aggressive? Am I using AI to modify or play a synthesized voice? Am I using AI to do a deep fake or an insert of a image of myself and oops, sorry, my mic's not working, I'll just type to you? So those types of attacks are on the rise. Everybody has to be concerned with those, especially if you outsource your help desk.
Yeah.
Because if you outsource your help desk, think about it. That outsourced help desk probably supports 20,000, 30,000, 60,000 people. They are never going to have the ability to know exactly who that is on the other side of the phone.
Because I could be calling up as the CEO saying, you've got to do it now.
Yep.
It's urgent. And this person's panicking and they just do it.
Yeah, because they don't want to get yelled at. They don't. Yeah, exactly. So they'll just do it. And probably, honestly, maybe 70% of the time it's legit. That's how that normally happens. But the problem is whenever somebody comes in and takes advantage of that weakness. I always like to talk about it in the sense of, there's authentication and then there's authorization and verification. Whenever you talk about help desk resetting passwords, I always say it needs to be underneath a guiding principle of authentication. Because you can't treat those as different processes because it's very easy to authenticate somebody, but it's a little bit tougher to verify somebody. And you need to put that a little extra effort in.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think are the biggest threats now to SMEs that businesses need to be aware of?
So I've got a mental health one and I've got an actual cyber threat one. So I think first on the cyber threat is just be aware of the asymmetry of the warfare you're currently conducting. You are a defender unless you do have proactive capabilities and you are operating in a space where you can take actions. But for the most part, you're always going to be a defender. And you're dealing with attackers that are, usually we always get warned about nation states and those well-resourced hackers that have access to 0 days and can linger within your networks for 200 days. But then there's also the, Scattered Spider, Shiny, what's their new APT name? Shiny Scattered Lapsus or Shiny Lapsus? Shiny Lapsus Hunters, I believe is the new label they're going on underneath. They absorb some of the Scattered Spider individuals. And just all these different names I'm tossing out for these different threat groups, they're not nation-state backed. They might have ties to transnational organized crime or something. Or they might just be somebody that was impoverished, didn't have a lot of opportunities, and got pulled into a scam in a telegram one time of, hey, want to make some money? Here's some things to go do. And also that it's trivial now for somebody to say, I've got loose morals. I want to make money. Let me go spend, for me, $700, $800, 500 pounds of I'm going to go and buy access to a ransomware as a service platform. And then I'm going to go buy some credentials from a initial access broker that's got compromised credentials for sale for $7, $8, $10. And I'm going to combine those two together, do a simple scan of their public-facing IP, and then I can start sending emails. And within hours, I can be attacking a business with tools that can cause millions and millions and millions of dollars of damage. So there's the asymmetry. They always used to say that, as a defender, you have to succeed 100% of the time. An attacker only has to succeed once. Yeah, I've never liked that one. I like more that you are the defender. You must always defend. It is a constant thing. Everybody around you needs to understand that it is a constant effort. It's not we do a project and we walk away from it. And that those types of asymmetrical warfare, that imbalance of resources that happens there, is why it is so hard to keep up with the changes that have been happening.
It's frightening what you've said, actually. When you were speaking, I was thinking, how can an MSP even keep up with this stuff? So the question I've got for you now is the UK maybe a bit behind with cyber resilience compared to the US?
I don't want to say legislatively, I don't think they're behind. I think we're fairly agreeing with each other. Also with the EU, with the NIS2, UK is the UK Cyber Resiliency Act has strong alignment with NIS2, which also has strong alignment with some of the things we're doing back in the States, on a regulatory basis of how long do you have to report incidents? When do you have to report incidents? Are you within scope of this scheme or not? Because for anybody who doesn't know that's in the UK with the Cyber Resiliency Act, it's actually expanding the scope of who was covered further than what the NIS2 was going. It's probably even further than what we have in the States. And those requirements are, while there are some very important ones in there, like being able to report an initial incident within 24 hours, being able to give a more detailed report within 74 hours or 76 hours, and then being able to provide that more detailed report in a month. There's the DFIR, let's see if I get my acronyms correct, NCSC-CIR, the Cyber Incident Responder Scheme here. And we don't even have something like that back in the States, of a government-approved incident responder program. You're kind of left to the market in the States. So I do think that you're not behind. I think the businesses might be a little bit further behind, though, on the realization of the need for this. Because we in the States got targeted really heavily with ransomware and other attacks in, late 2000, early 2010s. That's when it really started rolling. So by 2015 rolls around, and it was like, ransomware was the biggest thing everybody was worried about and had to defend against. And we were seeing that so much more in the States than anybody else was globally at that point in time.
Why do you think that was?
I think it's market.
Bigger
market.
Bigger market.
Bigger target. And also probably a willingness of, in the U.S., bigger corporations, a lot more money, a lot more of them, probably a lot more willingness to just pay out a ransom.
Yeah.
Keep it quiet, keep moving on.
For the smaller organisations out there that are worried about these threats, haven't got a big security team, realistically, what can they do to protect themselves?
Do not ignore your users. I think that's the biggest thing, is cyber hygiene training, cybersecurity awareness training. It can't be that once a year program anymore where somebody just sits and watches the 5-minute videos and that's it. Your organization needs to be much more aware in total. And we already see that. That's, phishing buttons showing up in Outlook and that responsibility. Going to end users to report phishing, the phishing simulations that companies run to try and train and improve their employees to recognize them. All of that stuff's really important, and you really need to get C-suite, board, president, business owner buy-in that yes, everybody needs to take this seriously. It can't just be pushed off to the IT team or to the security team to be their sole responsibility, and nobody else has any accountability or responsibility in the process. Then there's the, what you don't know and the tools you don't have will obviously impact the security outcomes you're able to deliver. And there's always the, roll up your sleeves and learn. There's no reason why you can't take advantage of, the defaults tooling that's available in Windows. If you're managing Linux, there's a lot of tools and capabilities you can take advantage of there to make those devices more resilient. But that gets hard at scale. It gets hard with changes that you have to keep up with. It gets hard with the fact of the speed at which the world runs. An individual on your team is not going to be able to consume all of the threat intelligence that exists in the world. If you tried that, you'd have to sit them in a chair 24/7, 365, and they'd never be able to move.
And if they struggle, Lewis, they can still call you.
It's
a free service. They can still call you.
Still call me. But it's going out there, and you have to find the solutions that are going to fit to your situation, to your scenario. There is no reason why you need to buy the biggest and the best if that's not what you need. But also you have to make that business risk management calculation of, if the business is going to make the decision, that's fine if the business makes a well-reasoned decision about what they're going to do around security. But most of the time they're not making real.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bigger thing you have to be mindful of if you are in a position where cybersecurity is part of your purview.
Yeah.
But you don't get to make the business decisions. You have to be a really good advocate now in ways you weren't previously years ago.
You mentioned AI earlier. Do you think that's going to sort of supercharge the attacks that we're going to receive? And on the flip side, do you think AI can help MSPs protect themselves from cyber attacks?
Very much so. So there's very much a need for MSPs to get a handle on AI and where AI can help them and where AI can hurt them. Not just on the use of AI by threat actors, but also by, improper use of AI within the MSP, or even if you're internal IT, the use of AI by your end users improperly in the environments. So I think that challenge, you're going to kind of solve that at the same time that you're leveraging AI for yourself. So for leveraging AI as an MSP or as a internal IT individual, there's always the concerns of, what information am I giving it? Where's that information going? Who's going to have access to it? But that's no different than what it's always been. I got one of those questions a few weeks ago. Somebody reached out and they asked me about, I have a client. They went and they purchased ChatGPT. They got it and they set it up for their business, and they were loving it. It was great. But then they started getting these financial reports from some of the employees, and he was like, "Oh wow, this is great. I'm glad we got." And they were like, "No, we didn't use ChatGPT for this." And he was like, "But that's the approved AI that we're using for financial data, because that's intellectual property and it's sensitive, and we have legal obligations to protect it. And you did what?" So the question was, how do I solve this problem of end users not using the AI tool the company bought, and instead are going off and using another AI tool? And he was trying to ask me for, how do I address it? What's the technical? I was like, well, did you tell them they're fired? And he was like, what? I was like, they just intentionally disclosed private financial information to an unauthorized third party. And he stopped, and whenever I said it that way, it kind of clicked.
Light bulb moment.
Oh,
yeah,
that's what happened. So I think that's for MSPs, for internal IT, for businesses of all shapes and sizes. I think that's one of the biggest things you need to come to terms with about AI and your employees' use of AI.
Let's talk about the future, Lewis. What do you think is the next big cyber trend or threat that's going to happen that customers should be aware of?
Phishing, and all forms of AI-assisted scams. So I've seen some really neat proof of concepts that are also very scary, that are leveraging, open source intelligence tools to be able to just take this free tool, that somebody made and put up on GitHub and grab it and say, oh, I now know everything about this individual across 7 different social media platforms, plus some data we pulled from public repositories that are available from the state they live in. So they can do that in seconds with free tools. And then they had a complete profile of an attack, a target. And then you just give all of that information to an LLM or an agentic LLM that's set to run on a schedule. And it's just like, all right, 3 times a week, randomized, you're going to send an email to this target. And you're going to become their best friend over this next 6, 7, 8 weeks. Then you're going to ask them to do the bad thing. Then you're going to hit them with the, I need you to issue this PO. I need you to wire this money. I need you to provide me with access. I need you to, oops, I'm locked out. Can you give me your password? So I think those types of long-term kind of they're a twist on the pig butchering scams. They're not financial for the point of extortion out of the individual, but they're very much we're going to groom and manage this internal asset that we now have available as threat actors to get inside of your environment and do what we want. That's one thing. The other thing is, I just read this morning, if anybody's keeping up with the most recent Crimson attack that hit a lot of people, a lot of very big organizations. Apparently one of the groups they're associated with also put out a roll call for anybody that wants to, hey, we need people within these organizations that are willing to sell us access. So they're very publicly out there, where it used to be quiet. Hey, can I pay you some money? Can I buy you off? And it's not hush hush. Now it's just out in public, fully aware of it, and they're just going for it because we know that's one of their tactics.
That's
we know
terrible,
that's what they
isn't
do.
it? That's so bad.
So for them, it's like, well, what's the point in us hiding it?
Yeah.
If we're just public about it, we'll get more people. We'll get more eyeballs on our offer here, and we're going to increase our chances that somebody might take us up on it.
Wow, scary. Next year, 2026, what do MSPs absolutely have to do to stay competitive?
Ooh, GRC and I think governance, risk, and compliance, and vCISO, or fractional CISO services. Because I said earlier that, they're not looking for help on making sure computers stay on anymore. That's not their prime purpose for seeking out help anymore. So if you are still in a more traditional MSP position of where you're offering, endpoint management, patching, you've got backup in place, you're handling firewalls, you may have a DNS filtering solution or something in place. You're providing all these services, but you're not providing any governance over top of it. You're not conducting threat modeling exercises with your clients. You're not exercising risk management practices. You're not maintaining a risk register for your customers. All of those are things that, if you're not doing those things, then where is the actual accountability for what's happening? And that accountability, I think, is really important for a lot of MSPs to be like, you know what, I've got to be able to own that accountability. Whereas, traditionally a lot, especially if you were a smaller MSP or a newer MSP, sometimes you ran away from that accountability. You didn't want that level of responsibility. If you're still thinking that way, though, that's what you need to change in the next coming years. Is you have to, I think, change that mentality of, I'm avoiding risk exposure. I'm avoiding these types of situations because I don't want to be caught in the middle of it. But that just means somebody else is going to come along and is going to be willing to take on that accountability and responsibility, which means you're going to be at a loss because of that. So building out your governance, risk, and compliance programs, compliance as a service, fractional CISO or vCISO services. These are all I think these are all the places where if you can get into that, if you can incorporate that and start offering it, that's what's going to make you really, really successful over the next couple of years.
Last question, Lewis, and I don't want you to sit on the fence. I don't want you to say enable either. I want you to say a company out there in the market. It could be a vendor, it could be a distributor, it could be an MSP, it could be a VAR. What company in 2026 should the listeners watch? Who do you think is going to do well?
Ooh. Wow. And I'm sitting here thinking through all of the tools that I've touched in the past couple of months.
One company you admire, you think, or a partner you think is going to do well, they're going to do quite well in 2026?
Okay, so I can't say anything for how profitable or revenue or anything else like they may be achieving, but I think something the vCISO toolbox.
Who?
vCISO toolbox.
vCISO toolbox.
I think, yeah. Because just like I was talking about a while ago, GRC is a really big thing. That is the boat you need to be getting on. And I think that's one of the platforms right now. And there are other ones, quickly, Sanomi, Cavello. There's others that do a lot of these elements and everything. Plenty of opportunities to go grab those and do great things with them. But I think it's such, I think it just does it in a good way that if you are like, I'm good at taking care and administrating these systems, I'm decent at knowing, all right, these are the security risks, these are the things I need to be aware of, but I don't know how to organize it. I don't know how to track it. I don't know how to manage this as a business process. I think that's really where it shines.
Lewis, you've been a great guest. Thanks so much for your time.
Been a pleasure.